All right, so this is going to be an interesting one. This came out only a couple hours ago. We're fresh. We're right hitting the punch. We're fast to it with this one, okay? This is fresh off the presses. Piers Morgan just had a number of very prominent conservative influencers come on his show. I believe from Candace Owens to Tim Pool to Steven Crowder, all of them come onto his show to debate in this episode. Some of them to debate, some of them just to talk, to be interviewed, more or less. And a lot of people have been talking about this new episode. I saw Twitter blowing up about this, so I figured, why not get right out in front of it and react to it live on stream? I figured we'd take a look at the most interesting segment of the video, though, because it's time-stamped. Tim Pool on Candace Owens versus Erica Kirk. Tim Pool reports shots fired at his house. We don't care about that. We already covered that earlier. Sponsorship. Yes, he interviewed Milo Yiannopoulos. Sorry, not Candace Owens. Milo defends Nick Fuentes. I imagine that caused a debate. Then Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder then joins. Which one would you guys prefer more? Tim Pool? Milo Yiannopoulos or Steven Crowder? Which of these is more interesting to you? I'm really curious, chat. Milo, probably? Yes, that's not an answer. Tim is least interesting? Tim? Milo? I don't care, they all sound fun. Crowder does? Crowder? Oh my god. Milo, Crowder, then Pool? We're not doing all of them. You gotta pick one. This is a 1 hour long thing. You gotta pick one, guys. We're not getting a consensus. Everyone's lurking, so we only got, like, a few people responding. You know what? Let's go with Crowder. I'm just gonna choose for you guys. We're not getting enough, chat's too dead to really poll chat for an answer, so we're gonna go with, Crowder. Let's go. Let's do it.
An eagle-eyed member of the Uncensored team noticed that one of the first eager superfans to comment on my interview with Nick Fuentes was Steven Crowder, the host of Louder with Crowder, who wrote on our YouTube channel, How to Not Conduct an Interview 101. And Mr. Crowder joins me now. Welcome to you, Mr. Crowder.
Thank you for having me, sir. Merry Christmas. Or do you guys say Happy Christmas? I've heard it both ways.
We do both. I'd be very happy to wish you a Happy Christmas and a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Despite you impugning my qualities as an interviewer. You did expand on this. You said Piers Morgan is a liberal at heart, which I think is probably right. So he spent the whole interview trying to gotcha his way through identity politics on a guy who already rejects the premise. I did think that was an interesting commentary, actually. I would start by saying...
God, I hate YouTube and how bad its UI is. Anyway, I've commented a lot in the past that I hate Piers Morgan. I've been really rough on him, but to be fair, I might be a little too rough. I'm frustrated by the fact that Piers Morgan is I'm frustrated by him in the same way that I used to be frustrated by Joe Rogan. And that I want to believe he's genuine and just being, like, misled by grifters whose job it is to mislead people through speech. Like, their speech skill is 100 and they're very good at manipulation. Like, I want to believe that Piers is a genuine guy who is falling for a bunch of grifters with speech skill 100 coming on his show all the time. But the way he commits so hard to these right-wing talking points in the past has been... It's hard to justify, in my mind. It's hard to rationalize. And I will say, I found myself very pleasantly surprised to see Piers seemingly going down a bit of an anti-right arc as of late. Like, in the past, it was pretty exclusively, he was, dishing it out to the left. But now the right is getting their turn. And I can respect a quote-unquote centrist who is actually committed to going after both sides equally. Like, if that ends up being the case, I'll at least have some level of respect for Piers Morgan. I will still not quite enjoy the fact that there's any equivocation drawn between the left and the right, because it truly is night and day. But nonetheless, I do appreciate the direction he's going in. I hope this is a permanent, or at least a more significant change, and not just a trend that's going to last a week for his channel.
I wasn't trying to gotcha him, because I'd already made it clear I was going to put to him, I'd already said this publicly, I was going to put to him all the more contentious things that he has said, which have gained notoriety, and challenge him properly about it, which I think I did. I don't categorize that as a gotcha. He got very exercised about the story involving his father, and I said on an earlier panel we did that actually if I had my time again, I wouldn't have named his father, although it's easily discoverable on the internet, but I wouldn't have done that. I would still have told the anecdote, because as I tried to explain to Nick Fuentes, the story was put in the public domain by Nick Fuentes about his father in a way in which you could only construe from it that his father made decisions when Nick Fuentes was young, which appeared to be racist decisions. And I was curious whether he felt he was a product of that environment. Now, he went nuts about that, and he's perfectly entitled to. And he's come after me and my family. If he's perfectly entitled to do all that, I don't care. But I was curious why you felt that I was playing gotcha with him and not just actually, I think, doing my job as a journalist and just challenging him about the more contentious things that he said.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I don't think you challenged him on the most.
Man, I can feel the right-wing movement falling apart in real time. Like, while the left is very low energy and unmotivated right now, I do feel things starting to move in the right direction. Mamdani getting elected was a really, I think, a jolt that the left really needed. But it's not enough. But I am glad to see that the right is tearing itself apart. A weak right is a good playing field for the left to flourish on. And the right is actively weakening itself right now.
Most contentious things. And by the way, it's not an impugnment of your character. It's a different interviewing style, right? I think that trying to shame someone like Nick Fuentes for being racist, for being a misogynist, like that's a layup for him. He's already been accused of that, and I don't think it's very fruitful. I mean, I don't want to conflate gotcha with challenging. So I would say, by the way, yeah, if he's going after your family, Nick Fuentes, if you're watching, strongly condemn that from your audience if anything is happening out of line. But I also would say, when the guy makes a good point and says, hey, you know what, my dad's not here to defend himself, could we move on from that? Don't do it 6 more times. When I counted 6 times and you're not able to get to where you actually have disagreements. See, when I sat down...
You can see, like, where Steven Crowder falls on this. He's always been far more racist than he's been willing to admit. Like, he's always been a big power level hider. But when he's let it slip, it's always been very clear that this guy fucking hates brown people. He hates black people. He hates Asians. He is a white supremacist with a capital W and S. He is committed to that shit. When he lets that leak through, he is, like, fully bought in. And, he kind of plays it off as he's just more of like a radical, like at most maybe an alt-righter, but he's a full-on, he might be into like the anti-Semitism stuff too. I think I've seen him make comments about that. So Steven Crowder is a lot more far-right than y'all might have assumed. Like, he hides his power level pretty well.
With Nick, and yeah, I played his clips back. People could argue that it was tedious, but I would play a 1.5-minute clip, you know, a 2-minute clip, because I wanted to show it in context. And I was able to actually lay out, we were actually able to contrast our policy, our prescription differences, where people know. And so I think if you go after, for example, father being racist. I don't even know that you would construe his father's being racist, because then, like Applebee's, no one likes Applebe's. No one likes Applebee's.
Hang on. That's not what he said. He literally
lies.
told the story that his father didn't like that particular restaurant chain or others because they were known for black fare.
Sure.
Well, that's racist.
Black fare? What if people don't like black fare as far as food? What if people don't want to be somewhere where they're more likely to end up in a World Star hip-hop video? This is where we get to the issue of you and him discussing per capita.
You see what I mean? Right? Like you see what I mean? When he lets it through, you can really see this guy is a white supremacist. Like, he is in that shit. Like, he lets it slip from time to time.
But let me ask you this. Like, you're Catholic. We're talking about this. You said you'd be happy to talk about it. What do you think is going to be fruitful in attacking a celibate Catholic for not getting laid?
I didn't attack him. I didn't attack him.
You said he needs to get laid?
Well, the fact is that while many in his audience might not have a problem with that, they will grow to have a problem with it. What Nick Fuentes is and has been for a decade now is really embarrassing to any adult man. Like, there are very few adult men who feel proud to admit, especially to any women in their lives, that they're a graper, right? Like, the idea is that, sure, a bunch of teenage virgins might respect Nick Fuentes for being a celibate Catholic, but when those teenage virgins are college-aged, you know, dating basically adults that function in society, they're going to look at Nick Fuentes and what they know about Nick Fuentes and the stuff that he owns about his brand, like him being a celibate catboy lover or whatever. They're going to cringe at it, and they're going to drop him, like they always have in the past.
Hey,
I think he does.
That's a heresy.
I think he does. I think he's an incel.
So you advocate heresy?
I think he's, well, I perfectly understand if you're a devout Catholic, which I'm not. If you're a devout, I was brought up a Catholic and I was given spiritual guidance by Catholic nuns, and a lot of my family are very devout Catholics. I'm not particularly, but I still adhere to, broadly adhere to Catholicism, albeit there are parts of the teachings I don't agree with. So that's my position on it. But I can understand if he'd said to me, the reason I've never had sex.
Then why bring it up, Pierce? Why is it relevant whether he's been late or not? Because I said in my interview specifically, just so you know, I'll answer for everything I say. When I interviewed him, I said, I hate it when people use something that should be seen as a virtue as an attack. Out of all the views, if you view them as reprehensible, and I, by the way, strongly disagree with a lot of Nick's views, the least relevant is whether he's celibate as a devout Catholic. That's like a good thing. And so you actually give him the
Well,
moral
yeah, but
high ground.
actually,
He says, hey,
had he
taking
said
my
to me,
dad out of it.
yeah, but hang on, you're putting up a better defense, if I may suggest, than he did. Because had he said to me, I'm a devout Catholic, and the reason I haven't had sex.
I'm gonna be honest. I call bullshit on Nick Fuentes being a Catholic. Isn't a fundamental aspect, like, isn't one of the main... if anybody here's a Christian wants to correct me on this, if I'm wrong, then please do. You're welcome to do so. I invite it. But isn't the main difference between, like, your average sort of, let's say, Baptist Christian, like you know, Jesus-loving Christian in America, more commonly, and a Catholic, because I don't think Catholicism is the dominant form of Christianity here in America, is, like, the loyalty to the Catholic Church, right? Like, following the will of, like, the Pope and the cardinals and like, having some level of loyalty to the Catholic Church, right? Is that not, like, a big factor in Catholicism? No? Is that not what a big part of it? America is predominantly Protestant. Okay, you weren't responding to that. Okay. But correct me if I'm wrong, isn't, like, a big part of Catholicism, if not, like, the main part of it, like, the loyalty or at least the following of the Catholic Church? Like, you follow the Pope. Like, the Pope is the messenger of, like, God's word. And, like, when the Pope says something is good, if you're a Catholic, a devout Catholic, you're meant to think that thing is good now. If the Pope says something is bad, if you're a devout Catholic, you're supposed to think that's good now. Like it's or vice versa. I'm sorry. I'm a little mixed up right now. But, like, Nick Fuentes is a racist, hateful, smarmy little cur. Nothing that he expresses or stands for or lives by is in line with what the Catholic Church preaches. He has viral clips where he calls the Catholic Church gay and cringe. How can he be a devout Catholic if he fundamentally rejects the authority of the Catholic Church? Like, wouldn't he just... What makes him any different from, like, just a non-denominational Christian or just a Protestant or something, you know? Like if he has no loyalty to the Catholic Church, then how's he a Catholic?
It's because the Catholic Church forbids that and says you should be married before you have sex. Perfectly reasonable answer. That's not what he said. He never said that at all.
So you didn't do your research, because he said that literally dozens
He
of
may have
times.
said it elsewhere. He didn't say it to me. I only asked him about that stuff because there is a view that he is what they call an incel, and that he whips up that kind of mentality, and that's why he's such a
Yeah, like, does Nick Fuentes tithe? Does he go on pilgrimage? Does he do any of these, like, Catholic things as he LARPs about being a Catholic? Like, if Nick Fuentes actually goes on the pilgrimage thing, then I'll believe he's a Catholic. But I don't believe it. I think he does it for the LARP.
misogynist about women and so on. It's an interesting thing to ask him. He seemed to me quite happy to answer it all. He was quite emphatic in his answers. Fine. I didn't see that as an attack. I was joking about getting laid because it seems to me he's a very angry guy.
Can I jump in for a second here?
Yeah.
Because this is where I think this is important, right? His audience will. People out there, by the way, some who are voluntarily celibate because they're devout Christians, but also if you look at the dating pool out there, I don't think it's misogyny to say, I wouldn't date one of those young women if they were growing on my ass. And they're actually out there living in a world that's been created. They will identify you as someone who's helped create that, right? Someone who says, I don't care.
I like how frequently the right jumps between we want young women in our to be in relationships with, while also waging a culture war against the idea of dating Gen Z women, like women in their like 20s. You know, like it's like, dude, you fetishize young women constantly, and now you claim men shouldn't date Gen Z women. Like, I guess what they're advocating for is for men to date teenagers. To be fair, that is the sort of quiet part they don't say out loud.
I don't care if the UK no longer looks white. I don't care if we lose our cultural identity. Hey, it's great, women's rights, and they're looking at their prospects. And when you say, hey, you're celibate or whatever it is, you haven't gotten laid, you're an incel. Guess what? You give him the moral high ground. When you say, hey, what about your dad? And he asks you, and I will say, he asked pretty respectfully, don't do that. You go on 6 more times. What did you ask
because I thought what he was
doing?
doing.
You said little twerp.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Said little twerp.
Stephen, I hear you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, honestly, I'm not, because I've got a lot of respect for you. I think that
Well, thank you.
I think what he tried to do, I think he was taken aback when I revealed that anecdote about his father. And I think he didn't want to address what he actually said on air with that anecdote, because it's pretty damning when you hear it. And I think he decided very quickly, because he's a...
This is true. Nick Fuentes chose to tell that story. He chose to bring his dad into the topic of conversation on his public platform. You'll notice I don't frequently talk about family. And when I do, it's in passing, because I'd rather keep them out of this whole, like, streamer thing that I do, because it's not relevant to them. And of course, if you bring them into it, then they're on the table to be attacked, potentially. Or at least if you talk about them enough, they're on the table to be attacked. And Nick Fuentes told a story about his dad that publicly, on his stream, that made his dad sound real racist, made it sound like he had a racist upbringing. And that's a relevant thing to ask about. And Nick can ask politely for something to not be done in a debate as much as he wants, or a conversation, an interview, whatever, Nick Fuentes would never impart the same generosity. Don't ever give Nick Fuentes the same charitability or generosity that he would never in a million years extend to you. Taking the high road with people like that will always lead to failure.
The smart, quick operator to turn it into me attacking him about his dad. He wasn't there and how disgusting about. And that's fine, but I kept trying to bring him back. I kept saying, look, it's not an attack on your father.
To his dad.
Well, I wasn't attacking his dad. I was saying, if you tell a story which looks to the world when they hear it that you're saying your father was racist, can that have an influence on you as you grow up? That was the question I was making. I didn't want him getting off the hook of answering that question about his environment, having heard him in his own words put that story out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, here's the thing. In trying to keep him 6 times, and that's what I counted on the hook for his dad maybe being a racist. Look, if your dad's in the Klan, it couldn't be relevant. It has nothing to do with the price of tea in China, right? What hook?
Well, it is if you openly admit to being a racist.
Well, I'm asking him about Stalin, and I say this because the last time I was on your show, remember we were talking about Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
And by the way, I would hope that you would be just as hard on Candace and people like Tucker for some of the things that they've said.
Sure.
I think it's fair to be even-handed across the board.
Yeah, I agree.
Stalin, I said I would like to ask him about that, right? Is he a fan? Is he actually an admirer? Or does he just mean to say he's fascinated? What did you ask? You asked him about his dad 6 times. You attacked him as, I don't mean attack him, you presented him as racist, misogynist, right? Stuff that he already knows. That's the
Apparently Nick Fuentes sent his goon crew after Pierce Morgan's daughter. Yeah, like, they will try to draw an equivalence between Pierce Morgan pushing Nick Fuentes on that quote about his dad and what Nick Fuentes did in response. But, like, Nick Fuentes and his community, it's not even close to a secret, are one of the most reprehensible communities on the internet. Like, they engage in targeted, coordinated harassment frequently. It is part of the whole Groyper thing, right? It's a movement, a lifestyle, a cultural brand. Like, you live, you got to eat, breathe, and shit Groyper if you're going to be a Groyper. And yeah, they worship that guy. You know, like they will go after anyone he tells them, or even so much as implies that they should go after, because they don't like that person. They will go after people's family members. They'll dox, SWAT, all that kind of stuff. Nick Fuentes' community are one of the most unhinged on the internet. So the idea that, like, once again, any charitability or generosity should be extended his way when he'd never do the same for you on his platform, don't fall for it.
The playbook, you'll drive your fans into his own arms. What was your question on Stalin?
Well, I asked him.
There wasn't one.
Well, there was actually.
There wasn't one.
No, you're missing.
there wasn't.
No, there was. You just didn't hear it. So I actually brought on a British journalist called Danny Finkelstein, who spent 90 seconds in a video talking about what Stalin and Hitler had done to his family. I did it in the context of him saying Hitler's cool, but Stalin was addressed in that, and he was totally dismissive of a Jewish man talking about his family being annihilated by Stalin and Hitler.
Do you hear yourself? Do you think that's going to be effective or fruitful?
Well, it wasn't.
It wasn't. Finkelstein? No, it wasn't. You didn't ask me. Let me read you what I asked him about Stalin.
Wait.
Okay, because I think
Having a guy named Finkelstein, he let it slip there for a second.
a lot of you responded saying it was softball. Did you watch the whole interview that I conducted with Nick?
Well, before you read what you're about to read, let me play a little mashup of you interviewing Nick Fuentes, and you can respond to this. Hang on.
Okay, but did you watch the whole interview?
Yeah,
Nick Fuentes, do you hate all Jews?
Oh,
sir?
man.
No, I don't.
I'm not gonna lie. Piers Morgan's, like, get you in gotchas and like, you know, blood sportsy kind of style that he goes for is very nice to watch when he's going after people you don't like. When he's like, hold on, I'm gonna stop you right there. I got a clip I'm going to play that makes you look bad really fast. It's like, damn, it feels good when people are doing it to people you don't like. Shit. Feels kind of good. I'm not going to lie.
Don't.
Okay. Do you consider yourself an anti-Semite, a noted anti-Semite?
No.
Okay. Clears that up. Do you believe that white people are superior to all other races on the planet?
No.
Okay. Do you want to eradicate all non-whites from the United States?
No.
Okay, well, Barry Weiss will be very happy to hear that. No doubt she's watching. And then because this happens a lot, right? You're a Tucker did this with you. Fed. Nick Fuentes, are you in fact a Fed?
No.
Okay.
You know, federal agents have to tell you if they're a federal agent.
I got to say, mate, that's one of the most forensic examinations of interviewing masterclass I think I've ever seen. I mean, the follow-ups were magnificent. Magnificent.
Pierce, did you watch the whole interview?
No.
No, you didn't. Okay, so one of us came here quite a bit more prepared, which seems to be your approach with Nick. So let me read you my exact question on Stalin. Those were layups specifically because, again, I think you and I both agree, right? We want to have reasonable discussions. You don't want to radicalize people.
I agree.
Get rid of the bull crap on the outset so that we can actually get to real differences. And I think here's something that I really pursue when I interview: truth and understanding. I asked him about Stalin. Let me read you the exact question. Later on, it would help if you watched the whole interview. I said, my question to you would be, I know that you've said we want a Catholic theocracy or a Christian theocracy. I've heard the word dictatorship. Correct me if I'm wrong. I would ask you, since the endpoint seems similar to where Stalin would want us to reach, swap atheism for Catholicism, would you be able to name, or is there any one thing that you think America concretely should copy about Stalin's rule or revolutionary methods to get there? And guess what? We were able to actually answer. We were able to actually discuss it. How many retractions on your show? 0. Quite a few on mine. How many times did we actually get into discussions regarding where we disagree? And let me tell you where I disagree with him. I'm to the right of him on some issues. I'm definitely to the right of him economically. He's a pretty big sort of centralized economy guy, but we did it in good faith. And I presented him with his own questions. We got that out of the way. If you don't watch the whole interview.
Yes, because you are a market capitalist and he's a Nazi. He at least does believe in some aspects of removing private property from the wealthy, primarily in order to like remove wealth from Jewish billionaires is what he wants to do. But yeah, like that being seen as like the fundamental difference between Crowder and Fuentes tells me a lot about Crowder's politics.
Yeah, you can take 15 seconds. Did you get to any? That was my question, and yours was, well, you never asked about Stalin. You said, do you you still think Hitler is fucking cool?
Yeah.
How'd that work out for you? What'd you learn?
That he does.
And that's new? But he thinks they have nice outfits? They're Hugo Boss.
No, but he didn't say that as his reason.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm starting to like Piers Morgan. I love how just deadpan and like refuses to like go like he doesn't fall for or run from the gotcha. He just says, yeah, so what are you trying to do? I love it.
Did you learn about Stalin, Pierce? Did you learn about
I learned this about Stalin.
disenfranchised?
As I said to you, I played a clip from a guy who literally lost family members, close family members, to Stalin and to Hitler.
Sure.
And Nick Fuentes' response was to mock him and then to unleash his groypers on this guy who've been now mercilessly abusing and mocking him about the loss of his family members to Stalin and Hitler for the last 48 hours. Now, you might think that's acceptable, or that somehow I didn't push that hard enough.
This is what legacy media has done. You can't compete. Look, guys like Nick, guys like Andrew Wilson on your show, they've come up. I mean that you were at CNN, HLN for a very long time, and you're still following the same format. And so there, accusing someone young of being racist is a win. But with people who've grown up being...
Dude, Piers Morgan is way more successful than Steven Crowder, especially right now. What do you mean? This is why legacy media is dying. Steven Crowder, your platform is dying. Piers Morgan is immensely successful.
Accused of racism, of misogyny their whole life, they don't give a shit. And so you should get to the point where you can actually understand. Here's the one thing I would say that would help. Listen. You weren't listening to the guy, so you're not even able to lay out where you disagree, and your own audience.
Well, I don't think you could have heard the whole interview either. Then I mean, I'm going to go and listen to yours
every last second, pillar to post.
Okay, but for 2 hours I talked to the guy. I came with an open mind. I wanted to know whether it was performative, whether he did these things, whether he said things as a joke, whether if he did and it blew up, he regretted any of them, or whether he really means this stuff. And I learned a lot more about Nick Fuentes in the 2 hours than I knew before. You probably knew it all already because you've interviewed him before. I haven't. It's the first time I've ever met him.
I've never interviewed him before. This was my first time I've ever spoken with him or interacted with him whatsoever. I did do my research, and I already knew what his stance was on Stalin. I already knew how he clarified it. I already knew his stance on racism. Here's what I would say, if I'm being as accurate as I can be, right, for the general populace. I think most people, if they listen to Nick Fuentes, his views on race and crime, they'd say, okay, someone like that has a case. Certainly any man under the age of 25. I think a lot of people would broad strokes categorize it as anti-Semitic.
Certainly any man under the age of 25. Yes, Steven Crowder. Probably not under 25. I'd say like under 20. But still, yeah, Crowder. A lot of young, radicalized men with underdeveloped worldviews because they're young and barely even adults do tend to agree with Nick Fuentes. That is not a proud statement about the things Nick Fuentes has to say, that the people who are most open to his ideas are the most impressionable, underdeveloped adults you could find.
We were able to get into that. I was able to communicate that I thought Islamic immigration is a greater threat than global Jewry. And guess what? He disagreed, but we understood each other. You don't de-radicalize people by marginalizing everyone who actually makes good points, by spending 6 follow-up questions on a racist guy, by accusing them of not being
Steve, here's what I'll concede. Like I did with the initial reaction that you did. I will concede, I didn't get him, I mean, other than him saying, I believe now, actually, in a satirical way. In other words, I don't think he really meant it. But when he said he did think at least 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust, he did it in a way that others, like Glenn Greenwald, have told me he didn't mean it. Whatever, it's up to him. It's down to him. I don't think I got anywhere with Nick Fuentes. I don't think I got anywhere to him changing his mind about anything. I certainly didn't get anywhere in stopping him unleashing his groyper hounds on me or my family, whatever. I don't care. I've had far worse, and it's fine. If you're in the media jungle long enough, you get these pile-ons occasionally, and it's just better just to ride them out with a smile on your face. It's whatever. But I didn't get anywhere with it. So in a way, I'm listening to you because I'm curious how you do get anywhere with somebody like that when his whole shtick is really just on doubling, trebling, quadrupling down, and he says things which I genuinely do find really offensive. When he talks about women in the way that he does, it is really offensive.
Well, let me answer. Here's how you get somewhere, by not playing gotcha. So, for example, when you start off with, if you've done the research, you know it's facetious. Same thing that Jillian Michaels did. Do you think all women need to be raped? No, he was citing, by the way, study after study that you can replicate that 62% of women have some form of rape fantasy. Yes, so sexually dominant. But when you start off with that, guess what? Young people go, okay, all right, same old, same old.
I didn't start off with that.
For those who don't know, Nick Fuentes is a clip where he goes on about how, because like 62% of women are into like porn where consensual non-consent is a thing, or they're into the kink, or they're into whatever related to that women want to be raped. And he goes on he calls it a joke. His defenders call it a joke, but he goes on a long rant about how women all secretly want to be raped. And 62% of women have a rape fantasy is not a proven fact. It almost certainly isn't a proven fact. Like any stat that Nick Fuentes pulls up is probably a lie, or like extremely cherry-picked Like, whatever stat is the most beneficial to be true, he'll go with, even if there's, like, a lot of different data points or data conclusions and there hasn't been a consensus. He'll go with whatever, outcome he likes the most. It is surprisingly high. I mean, there's tons of dudes who want death by snoo-snoo. Is it really that surprisingly high? Does men, like, going, haha, death by snoo-snoo, am I right? Does that mean that men actually want to have their pelvises shattered by, like, a 12-foot tall giant vampire lady? Because it's a joke. Because if you actually did, you would fucking die painfully. Like, your dick and balls and pelvis would be crushed until you died. It would be the most painful, horrible way you could possibly die. So obviously it's a fucking joke. It's not real. And you absolutely do not want the fucking 12-foot tall vampire lady to crush your entire body. Because you would die, and you wouldn't actually want that in real life. It's just as, even if a woman is into some consensual, non-consent kink type stuff, that doesn't mean in real life she actually wants to be raped. The same logic applies. Okay? Fantasy and reality are not the same thing. And Nick Fuentes pushing the idea that it's not is insane. Not to mention, this is the same guy who gleefully cheered "Your Body, My Choice" when Trump won, okay? This guy is a misogynist. I love how his defenders try so hard to say, the same old tired talking points. And it's like, no, these are the things that Nick Fuentes would either A, rather play off as a joke, or B, he'd rather his audience not even know about. So talking about these things is exactly what he doesn't want to have happen. He has to have a way to spin it if you talk about it.
What
I started off with this thing that all women are annoying and they all get old and fat and ugly.
What part of that do you disagree with?
All of it.
You don't think the women get fatter and more attractive? Men do too, by the way.
I think men
You and I are both getting fatter and ugly.
Men do too. And we both are. He didn't make a comment about it. He literally made the comment about specifically women, specifically to talk shit about women and say something disgusting about them specifically. And now it's like, well, I know he didn't say this, but he totally meant this when he said that. God, the way these people run defense for their own is so fucking slimy.
And I think that a lot of women, particularly if you go on TikTok and you see generationally, I think they're annoying. And I think that is a symptom of a serious problem, which is deeply rooted feminism, which, by the way, is the same source problem for LGBTQAI and the reason that you have biological men winning Olympic medals, right? You see that as a problem. You need to get to where you diverge and what the root of the problem is. And here's the thing, you're never going to get there if you just discount young people who are facing different problems. I understand. I don't think they're right on all of it, but I understand it because I was listening. I think you could have listened to him better. If your goal is the pursuit of truth, and actually, and I would imagine your goal, if you think his views are abhorrent, by the way, and I think some of them are. So if your goal is to peel some of those people off, give him the floor to explain context so that you can contrast it. But it ended up getting to gotcha.
Okay, but final question. Which of his views do you find abhorrent then?
Well, when he talks about, for example, I would say wrong. I would say wrong, the idea of global Jewry, and I told him that. The idea that massive third world immigration, particularly from Islamic countries, that largely rests at the feet of the Jews. I think it rests at the feet of these Islamic nations, of these third world nations that I would call crap holes, and that's considered a more offensive view. I think it's a problem, for example, when
Crowder hates brown people more than he hates Jewish people. That's the main distinction between him and Fuentes.
When you ask him if he's a racist, he's going to answer yes. He's going to answer yes, but he actually answered, by the way, everyone's racist. And then he actually offered a qualifier, and through that, you're racist because you live in a largely white area. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. You can't just ignore the points and go back to a soundbite. That's how a guy like Nick Fuentes, that's how he thrives. And by the way, people in the comment section, your own comment section, I get that some of them are trolling. Go easy, guys. It's Christmas. I think you were trying to do a good job. What I'm telling you, Pierce, is that it's not the way to approach a different generation of people who come up in a blood sport debate like they did on Twitch. It's going to actually give them.
If I was Pierce Morgan, well, for one, Nick Fuentes wouldn't be able to do that bit on me because I'm not in a primarily white area, but even that aside, let's say it was. Why would I be living in a primarily white area? Like, ask, if I was debating Nick Fuentes, I'd like to think in the moment I would have the wherewithal to ask him this. Do you think that if my same neighborhood was majority black, that would be a deal breaker? That if everything else was the same, but all my neighbors were black people, do you think I wouldn't want to live there? Or do you think maybe there are other factors that make people want to live in neighborhoods that happen to be primarily white? And he'd go, well, don't you think those reasons have something to do with the people that live there? And I'd go, well, once again, I'm asking, you're saying everybody's racist because they want to live in primarily white areas. I'm asking you, do you think most people, or even me, in the case of if I was in Piers Morgan's place, would not live there if everything was the same but the skin color of my neighbors? And I don't think he could honestly answer yes. Or at least not, like, I think he would answer yes, but I think you could just look at him and go, really? You think race matters that much to people? I think that speaks more about you than it does about... I don't know. I'd hope I'd have the wherewithal to say that in a debate with Nick Fuentes in the moment.
A win.
Yeah, I think I buy into the argument they couldn't give a shit, actually. And that's one of the more depressing aspects of it.
Easier to dismiss them.
But if I worried about their comments, I would turn the comments off, and they're wide open. So bring your worst, you little groypers. Stephen Crowder, Merry Christmas to you. Always good to have you on. And I enjoy our conversations about these things. I think I get stuff out of them. I hope you do too. We always have an interesting chat, so thank you.
I do. Happy Christmas. I appreciate you taking the time.
All the best.
Damn. Piers Morgan, uncensored. He should hire me to do the voice acting for that. He should do it. He should hire me. And he should give me $1 billion for it. A billion. A small loan of $1 million would be much appreciated, Piers Morgan. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyway, I also want to say a big thank you to everybody who watched this video. I appreciate it a ton. Be sure to leave a like and a comment down below if you want to support it. If you don't know what to say, go ahead and say, "Who up Xandering they haul?" It really does help a lot. And of course, consider subscribing if you want to see more from me. Join the fan Discord if you haven't already and you want to see more from me and be a part of my community. After stream, I'll be hosting a watch party there, so if you don't want to miss it, make sure you join. If you want to be there for the watch party. And of course, thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.